Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are back, season 7, Faith in Yourself, episode 8. Your next level requires a next level of self-belief. In our last episode, we talked about what it really means to trust in God's grip, especially in those moments when our own strength feels like it's running out. It was a word for anyone who's been feeling overwhelmed, uncertain, or stuck in the middle of their journey. We went deep into what it looks like to lean fully on God when everything around you feels unstable. Man, that episode is like one of my favorites because I learned so much within myself in that episode that today I feel like I'm kind of a brand new person with surrender and trusting God and who he is and that he's in front of me and that he has already ordained my steps. And all I got to do is surrender, trust, and let him lead me and guide me to my next level. So I highly recommend anybody that's in that state or in that place of doubt and self-belief or feeling uncertain, definitely check out that last episode. You definitely will not regret it. It's a beautiful and wonderful show that we did, and I hope that you guys have a moment and check that out. On today's episode, we have a word for anyone who knows they're being called to a higher level, but wrestles with believing that they have what it takes to get there. The truth is, stepping into your next level doesn't just demand more effort. It requires a deeper, stronger belief in yourself. So excited to get into this one. But before we do, Antoine, how are you? How you been?
Ari, what's up? What's up?
Ah,
Things are good. Things are
good,
good.
good.
I mean, the summer has been zipping by, which is
Yeah,
bananas. But I've been enjoying all of it. You know, my summer is full of days by the pool, hanging out with my daughter. We've had some time to spend with my family. So you know, we had Fourth of July and all these other things that we've had recently that we've experienced. And I did something cool this year. I went down to south of the border. I don't know if anyone south of the border still exists. I don't know if people know that, but south of the border is this place that sits on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. And we used to go there when I was a kid, and you could get fireworks. So, like in the state of North Carolina, which is where I'm at, certain fireworks are illegal that you shoot in the air. I think in
mm,
most states they are, but you can go there and get fireworks. And so we had went down and got some fireworks. And so for the 4th of July, we actually did a fireworks show in the back of my grandmother's yard, which was really cool. It was great to just be around family, enjoy that time. And so we did that. We've just been enjoying the summer as a dad and daughter should enjoy the
awesome.
summer. So it's been great. No complaints. Getting ready to wind the summer down and then get prepared for the school year that's coming up in August. But other than that, things have been fantastic. Nothing to complain about at all.
Awesome.
Just grateful. What about you? How's things in Costa Rica?
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that you've been having an amazing summer and an
Yeah.
amazing 4th of July with your family and, doing all the cool, memorable things. That's awesome.
Yeah.
For me, I had an amazing 4th of July weekend. My best friend, as I mentioned on the last episode, I believe I did, that she was coming and
Yeah.
we had declared so many things prior to her coming here to visit me here in Costa Rica. And I feel like God outdid himself and outshowed himself with
Hey.
how he showed up in our friendship and in our time here together. It was a beautiful couple days. She came for the 4th of July and, we went to Tortuga Island. We went to go to this beautiful island. We went on a catamaran, I think it's called.
Catamaran.
Yeah, it's like, a nice, little boat. And while we were on our way, it was like a 45-minute boat ride from where we were at to get us to the Tortuga Island. And on our way there, we seen dolphins. And my best friend had mentioned, she's like, oh, I would love to see a dolphin, like, before we even got on the trip. And literally there was not only one, two, or three, there must have been like 7 of them doing a show. And like we were sitting in like the front of the boat, so we had like the perfect view with nobody in front of us. And they were literally right there, like as the boat was like cruising, it was like right behind, like so we could see everything. And they were like performing a show for everybody on the boat, like literally like flying and twirling and going in the water and coming back out of the water and like just doing all these amazing tricks. And that's
Cool.
not planned. Like the boat doesn't know when the dolphins are going to be out and about and showing off. They don't know. But it happened to be that in that moment they were doing their things, and it was such a beautiful experience. We got so much videos of it. There was an amazing big turtle just swimming and chilling in the surface of the water. It just felt like paradise. Like it was just such a beautiful thing to see. And I love water, as you guys know. I love the ocean. So anytime I get to be in the ocean, I just feel like I'm in heaven. Like there's no better place for me. But when
Mm.
we got to the island, it was beautiful, spectacular. The scenery, the sand, the water, the excursions, the things that you could do while you're there. The food, oh my god, like it was a July weekend, and like they made everything like grilled, so we were like, oh, you know what I mean, because we certainly weren't gonna grill nothing. And we had like everything was grilled and to perfection, and oh, it was amazing, amazing. We went to a villa, like we were stayed in a master suite villa, and we just seen like macaws and birds and just the wildlife and nature, and like it was like a little jungle in the mountains, like way up top. And you know what I mean? It was just breathtaking. We connected so much with ourselves. We connected so much with God. Like we were like manifesting so many things during our trip, and things that we wanted that we just left in God's hands. And, at the end of the trip, we just really realized, the power of surrender and leaving things in God's hands, because
Mm.
that whole trip, we left in God's hand. Me and my best friend really weren't in the best terms before she came to visit. We were kind of just having some issues. And we just left our trip in God's hands. Like, God, you called us to this trip. Nudged us to get passports, for Lavada to get passports, for us to book it when we did. And everything was, we were following your lead,
Mm.
right? And even though at this moment we weren't in the best place at that moment, we just said, God, you called us to do this. You called us to come together at this time, and we're just gonna let you have your way, and you take all the control, and just surrender to your plan. And I'm telling you, that trip was such a spiritual awakening, such a spiritual experience, feeling God the way we did, and him just allowing things to happen, and things that we wanted to be manifested, and for us to experience and see that we wanted. It was just serene, surreal, serene. I don't know much other words to put it. So
Mm.
I had an amazing 4th of July. I am doing so much better than I have been in a very long time. And I would have to say it's because of, just allowing God to take lead, allowing God to just do what he needs to do. And I'm just here like just a willing vessel to take action whenever he needs me to take action. And until then, I'm just going to stay in a state of allowing him to do what he needs to do, and not fretting or going crazy or doubting or anything like that. Because as you'll see in this episode, when you doubt, you're canceling out what God has for you. But,
Mm.
it brings me to this question that me and Antoine had, that, we're going to try our best to answer. And it's, why we keep asking God to open new doors for us if we don't still believe that we're worthy enough to even walk through them.
Mm.
And I think that that's such a big, powerful question. And it really correlates to the topic, right? Your next level requires a new level of self belief, because we believe that in anything that you want to make happen in your life, and anything that you want, sometimes it doesn't require you to put in more effort, more manual labor, right? More
Mhm.
physical labor, right? Sometimes it just requires a deeper, stronger level of faith in yourself, right?
Mhm.
And not having doubt and all those things. Antoine, have you ever found yourself in this situation?
Yeah, yeah, and I love the question because you're right, and I definitely come from a family of people who work really hard. Like I grew up
Mm,
in that era where
yeah.
my mom, my grandmother, my uncles, all my family around me, they worked hard, and that was what they instilled in you when you were younger. If you want to go someplace, work hard. You got to put in all this effort. And if you're not putting in enough effort, you're lazy, you're not going to go anywhere, you're not going to become anything. All of those belief systems. And I think what I've learned throughout my lifetime is that there is definitely a space where you have to, grind, and you have to really put in that extra effort to get to where you want to be. But there's also some times where it's not about the effort, it's about the faith. And sometimes the effort can only take you so far if you don't believe in the direction you're going. And what comes up for me is when I was starting my weight loss journey, When I was just coming out of college, throughout all my life, I've been overweight, super heavy. And when I was going through college, I had kind of already cemented in my mind that I was going to be a heavy, just overweight person. I just told myself, for the rest of my life, I'm just going to be fat. That is what it is. Like, I love food. I don't mind working out, but like, give me some food I can eat all day. I'm good. Just keep the good food flowing, right?
Yeah.
And in my mindset, because I came from a family that was already overweight, and many of them battled some of the major things that, as a black male in the black community that we deal with, like diabetes and hypertension, all these things, none of that really ever scared me enough to make any changes in my life. I just had kind of believed that being overweight is just who I am because that's where I come from. And it wasn't until I got the opportunity to go through a very transformational weight loss process that my mindset started to shift. And for me, the big thing that changed for me, and I'll never forget it, I was so for those who don't know, I was a part of this TV show they had way back in the day. It's called The Biggest Loser, around losing weight. And one of our first challenges that we went through was they had us run a mile. Now,
Mm.
I don't know how old some people are out there, but when I was growing up, they used to have this thing called physical fitness test that you used to do in PE, physical education. And when we had PE each week, there came around this time every quarter or so where we had to do what they call the physical fitness test. And the physical fitness test was there's a series of different things you had to do that demonstrated how physically fit you were. So you do this thing where you do like a V sit. You had to reach and stretch. You had to do things like do shuttle run is what they called it. And you'd run and grab something and then come back and drop. And it's all about your agility. But the crown jewel of the physical fitness test was running a mile. You had to run a mile. And for me, when I was growing up, being overweight, I could never run a mile. Never. I'd walk it. It was just not even anything to be even thought about trying to do. So this test of running a mile on this show was very significant for me because it was something I
Mm.
had experienced as a child. I knew I would never be able to do it, but here I am on this show now that's supposed to help me lose weight. Like, oh, the mindset's going to change. And I'll never forget in this mile, the last, I would say, quarter to about half a mile, you had to run through sand. And if anybody's ever ran through sand on a beach, it is one of the hardest things to do. And they put this as a part of our process. And I remember distinctly crossing that finish line after running through sand and running this mile, feeling like I had just accomplished the world. I had did something that I could never thought that I can do. And I didn't run the whole mile. I walked some, I jogged some, but it was the biggest effort I had ever given myself to do something because I believed that it was time for a change in my life. I believed I had reached a point in my life where things were going to shift and I was no longer going to be this overweight kid. I no longer saw myself as a fat person. I saw myself as an athlete. And it was in that moment that things started to change for me. And to me, in my weight loss journey, going back to the question about, why do we keep asking God to open new doors if we still don't believe that we're worthy to walk through them? That was my block. I always wanted to be healthier. I always wanted to be fit, but I didn't believe I was worthy of that. I didn't believe that I had what it take to do that. And it wasn't until I finished that mile run that it was like something clicked. It was something that turned over at me that was like, you know what? You can do this. You have everything you need to accomplish that. And thankfully so, I carried that fire and that energy throughout the rest of the season. And I ended up losing a bunch of weight and transforming my life and keeping it off for a very long time. But what I believe is that, everything starts with your belief system, where you're at, what are you doing, what things are you changing, how are you thinking about yourself. And I even relate it back to who am I? And for me, I am a child of God first and foremost in everything. And as we've talked about through all these seasons, God is capable of doing anything at all. All he asks is for a willing and open heart. All he asks is for a willing vessel, someone who's willing to step through. And it's not until I shifted my belief system in myself and knowing that I am capable, I am desiring or in a desirable state. I am someone who is willing and able to not only put in the work but completely deserving of this lifestyle of being fit and being healthy. That things started to change for me, and that was kind of my big shift. And Ari, as I was thinking about this something that comes up for me, even thinking about the viral question, is, we all kind of go through this. So I'm sure, like, even for yourself, Ari, like, you've been through things where maybe you've doubted, or maybe you felt like you weren't worthy. I know we talked about some of this in the past weeks, but like, what has that been for you? Like, what has that shift looked like for you as you're even going through these next levels of your life and you're kind of continuing to move along this journey that God has for you?
Yeah, I mean, like so many things comes to mind, right? Because we're always in a constant state of, God, I want this, but I have doubt. God, I want that, but damn, it's taking too long. God,
Mm-hmm.
we're always in a constant state of that. But I think recently that I had like a major breakthrough in when it comes to my stay here in Costa Rica. I recently made a decision to get my digital nomad visa and stay here for a couple years. And when I first moved here to Costa Rica, although I knew God called me here, as you can go back to past episodes, I struggled with understanding, like, God, why? Like, okay, I know you called me here, but I'm kind of frustrated. Like, it's a big adjustment. There's things that I don't have here access to that I miss. And it was just a lot of things that I had to adjust to and let go of, and be a little uncomfortable for a while. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, God, I don't get it. It's a beautiful country and all that, but I'm not happy. Why do you have me here? And I recently had a major breakthrough where I felt and have that, like, Holy Spirit of God, like, really telling me, like, you're safe here. And this is going to lead you to the next level because I am changing you here. You're going to find a lot of freedom in yourself here that be in other places or in other environments you just felt stuck, and you felt like you couldn't fly freely, and you felt judged, and you just had like really a lot of frustrations and self-doubt. But here you're going to really live that pura vida life and live a, a more relaxed mindset, a more chill mindset and perspectives, and really live in that and embrace in that. And that comes with surrender, right? You can be pura vida and not have, and be in control, right? I mean, pura vida is just you're going with the flow. You're enjoying each moment as they come. You're not thinking about yesterday or tomorrow. You're just in the moment. That's what pura vida means to me.
Mm-hmm.
And while all of this has been happening, I realized that I wanted the pura vida, but I was too much in control, too much in my own way. And I just, realized that God nudged me and told me, like, I am here with you. You know what I mean? And you are going to be starting to take better care of yourself and my health. And I'm going to start placing people in your path that is going to um, aid you in taking care of yourself in all areas that you just kind of been lacking and slacking. And I felt that voice, and I just felt it so strongly that I knew that, what, God, you have me here for a reason. And maybe a lot of it is for my health, like my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health.
Mm-hmm.
you know you have me here for a reason. And I realized that a big part component of that for me was to surrender control.
Mm-hmm.
And hence the last episode, when we were talking about that, that's what our last episode was all about surrendering our control to God, because he called us to something. He is going to get us there, right? We just got to follow the leader. He's the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I am now cemented in that God is my leader, and he has been leading me, and he led me to Costa Rica. And I love it here. I'm just, in love with this country again, right? Because I fell in love with it in 2018 when I first visited, and I kind of lost it when I moved here at first. Like, I didn't get it. Like, why did I love about what I love about this country so much? And now I'm at that place where I love it, and I can see how God is in everything, and I can feel him, and loving myself and loving my process and my journey, and just letting go and surrendering, you know? So, like, for me, that has just been my recent breakthrough, because it was hard for me. And I can see how God has really ordained my steps, continuing to ordain my steps. And as long as I continue to surrender everything to him, right? My ways, my thoughts, um, my plans, everything. As long as I surrender everything to him, he will tell me what to do next. And I trust that and I believe that and I can feel him stronger than ever. And I feel that calmness in me. I feel a peace in me. I feel a confidence in me that everything that God told me is going to happen. And yes, I've always felt that because God doesn't lie. But now I can say that and feel it with this sense of peace, with a sense of like, it's already here, it's already happening. I'm in the process of that. I am allowing all of the things that are good for me to come to me, and everything is happening for my good. And yeah, like that's what I can say right now that it is for me is that um that breakthrough that I had and that experience that I had, because I've gone through a lot of that doubts, a lot of that self-sabotaging, and a lot of that not having faith and not allowing, I've been there.
Hmm.
If you guys watch this, if you guys watch, our podcast long enough, you'll see like, damn girl, you love God so much, but you know what I mean? You doubt a lot, and you're always, going through something. But I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? We all have to go through our journey, and we all have to go through our path, and we all have to, you know, go through the good to go through the bad to get to the good. And I'm
Yeah.
okay to be vulnerable and show that.
Yeah. And I love that you show that because I think I know I've learned through that, and I'm sure other people who've been watching this have learned through that. That vulnerability is still one of those things that I know I'm working on for myself and recognizing the areas that I need to be open about and say, hey, I'm struggling this and let go and just let God take care of it. And be on the ready for when he needs me, as kind of we were talking about earlier. But it seems so counterintuitive to how we're brought up and what we're taught to believe, which is that more effort is what you need to put behind something. If you're not getting where you need to go, you need to put more effort in. If this isn't happening quick enough, you need to put more effort in. If this isn't moving, you need to go, chase this person out and be on top of them, when in some cases, God's just like, you don't need to do all of that. I've
Yeah.
already taken care of it. You just need to take a step back, relax, chill, believe
Yeah.
that I've got it and I'm taking care of it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, what happened to me when I got here. I just was like, what I need to do? Like, what is it? What's happening? I don't get it. Like, I don't see no movement, and I was looking for more things to do, more things to prove to myself that this makes sense. What can I do? What actions can I take? And nothing was happening. Like everything stayed pretty much the same, as
Hmm.
far as my physical life. And that's when, that whole like, that whole surrendering and allowing God to just lead and me just following him, and that I don't need to put more effort and more thought and more, doing into what he has for me. All I got to do is believe that he's made a way for me, and he's making a way, and I just gotta follow each step at a time, his calling and his will, and his steps, not my steps. You don't need to put in more effort to get to where God wants you to be. You just have to
Hmm.
get to a place of having more faith in yourself and in God and what he said that he's going to do for you and what he has for you, what he's going to get you through. That's where you get
Right.
your breakthrough, in
Right.
that faith, and that's it, and that peace, and that and allowing him to do what he needs to do without you fretting or trying to figure it out and trying to drive yourself crazy in that process. And you're going to have this piece of allowing, and you're just going to go through the motions, and you're not going to worry about time frame, and you're not going to worry about, I gotta check this off my list. No, get the list, check. No, get that out the way. We don't need a checklist when it comes to God. God is already checking everything off for us if we
Hmm.
just follow in his lead. That's it. Follow his lead. He's gonna tell you what you need to do next. And if God hasn't told you anything to do, just stay in place. Be still. That's it. Just stay still. You notice when you're in water and let's say you're feeling like you're sinking and you're just trying to stay afloat, but you're like just flapping, and you're in fear, right? You go down. But when you just stay still, like, okay, I need to float. I don't really know how to swim. And you stay still and you allow your body to just do what it does, right? You feel safer. But the minute you start grappling with the water, it's like, I'm just going down like a rock. So it's like, just be still and know that God is doing what he needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of a story in the Bible, which I was thinking about when we started on this topic. Like, God, like I know I've had a chance to read through the Bible and hear about these different stories, but like, what's something that resonates a lot with this, and what comes up for me is like the David and Goliath story, which is a story I feel is like so well known, right? You have this little guy, boy, whatever you want to call him, David, facing this 9 foot Goliath who's terrorizing the Israelites. Like he is basically everyone in Israel is afraid of this guy, right? And David went in with a mindset of looking at things through God's eyes. And I think that we all should be approaching all of our Goliaths, our big problems, through the eyesight of God. Like, what is it that God sees when he looks at this problem? And I was reading somewhere about like when David looked at this problem, he looked at Goliath. He didn't see something that was undefeatable, which is what everyone else in Israel saw. Like everyone else, all of the army, the king, all of them saw something that was undefeatable. But what David saw was just a mortal man that was completely defying God. He saw someone that if he has God behind him and God is with him in this journey, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that he can't do. And so you take this 9 foot giant who's has all this armor on him, who is completely from everyone's eye, looks at something defeatable. And then you take this little man, David, who has no armor. And I was reading somewhere where it said like he didn't even want to wear the armor because he felt like it was restrictive. And that hit something with me because I think some of us go through our lives and journeys where we feel like we have to do what someone else has done or wear someone else's army or be like someone else to accomplish something or to get through it. When in actuality, God's just saying, come as yourself. I'm not asking you to come and to face these problems by trying to follow someone else's solution or trying to follow someone else's way of doing things. Yeah, what they did may have worked for them, but what I'm calling you to do and what I'm asking you to do, even if it looks like the same problem, it's a problem that I'm asking you to faith for your own development, for your own growth. And what I want you to do is I want you to work on your belief system in me. And so I love that part where I was reading, oh, well, he didn't even want to wear the armor. He wanted to come in as himself with just a sling and a few couple of pebbles to face this 9 foot giant who's carrying a spear and a sword who's ready to take his head off. And it became very evident as I was like reading and thinking back about this story that this is many of us on a day-to-day basis. Like every day there's problems and things that we're facing in our lives which we can consider to be Goliaths. And God is saying, look at this through my eyes. God is saying, I'm here with you. God is saying, this problem is not as big as you think it is. It looks like it's big, but in my eyes, from my vision as God, this is so small. This is just another step for you to get over to get to that next level I have for you. And as you grow, those problems that seem so big right now where you're at, as you continue to grow and move forward in life, if you ever look back at those problems, I don't know if anyone's ever done this. If you look back at the problems that seemed so big 10 years ago and you compare it to where you are now 15 or 10 years after that, they're so small. And it's all because it's perspective. As we get higher and we continue to grow in those next levels and those levels and those levels, and we continue to strengthen our belief in God, those problems aren't big because we know that we have God by our side. We know that God's going to open the doorways and show us what we need to do. We know that as we continue to put our faith and trust in Him, He will make those things happen that we need to get to the next level. And I think for me, when I thought about, this story and everything that David had came through, I started to think about all areas of my life where I've been in those situations, where I've faced those problems, where oh, well, let me see what this person has done. And let me ask this friend for advice. When God was just saying, I don't need you to be running, asking everyone for advice. All I need you to do, as Ariana was just saying, I need you to be still. I need you to just surrender what it is that you're going through. Come to me and we'll figure this out together. I already know what you're going through. I already know what you need. Just come to me and allow me to help push you and facilitate you through that movement so you can find out how to navigate it. And what's beautiful about David's story is that David, who started out as just a mortal, like just a man, a shepherd, after going through this experience and after defeating Goliath, he later became a king. He later became a king. And he would have never had the opportunity to become a king had he not gone through that experience with Goliath, had he not demonstrated his faith, had he not demonstrated the power that comes in believing what God has called, had he not demonstrated what it means to put all of your faith and belief in God. And it's like when God had noticed that, he said, "You're ready. You're ready for that next step. You've demonstrated as a good, faithful servant that even though everyone else who already worships and protects me has doubted in their faith, you showed that through your faith and belief in me, that anything is possible. You've now just created something that other people will see and will remember and see the almighty power that comes in believing and leaning into God." And I don't know, Ari, like for me, that was something that was really
Mm.
big as we were talking about this, and stories that come up that we've heard growing up as children, or if you read in the Bible, that continue to emulate some of the things we're talking about here.
Yeah, no, like when you were explaining the story, just thinking about David, right? We're gonna, you know, perceive him as little, right? And
Right.
when we're looking at things from the perspective of Goliath, right? 9 feet,
Right.
I picture like a monster, you know what I mean? With
Right.
just, all these rifles on him and just ready to go to war, and just with one, punch, is I mean, David is out. And then I think about David and going through this and not putting on the armor and just saying like, God called me to this war with this Goliath. No one else believed that they could, but God told me that I can and I will, and that I will be successful at winning this war with Goliath. He believed that so much so that he didn't wear the armor, right? He was like, nope, I'm going in just as me with, a weapon that, in real life, if you got a slingshot, you're not killing nobody. You know what I mean? But that's just goes to show the power of one self-belief, that you can, when you believe in what God told you, and God is like, just go out and be the vessel because I got your back, right?
Mhm.
That's just displaying that in so many ways. And I look at those little rocks that he had to slingshot and, bring down this big giant. I see that as, you know, like each rock was like was like faith. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like faith in God, like faith in himself. Like I got this because God is behind me, and God gave me the power and the authority and the weapon to defeat this big